Hello and welcome to My Mom's Basement. I am here with Preston Vance, number 10 of the Dark Order, ahead of Dynamite tonight. I can't wait. Wednesdays, you know what that means. It's AEW Dynamite, and I love it every Wednesday. Welcome to the show. Thank you for doing this. How are you?
What's up, Robbie? How are you, man?
I'm doing well. I feel like to start this interview off, we need your side of the Tony Khan story that Cody Rhodes told in My Mom's Basement last week. This is kind of how, the whole interaction started. So why don't we kick things off with your side of that story?
So it was pretty accurate. It wasn't like he just drove off and left me. He was already on the road, and I was like standing waiting for the shuttle with like a few other, like there's some production people, whatever. The shuttle did end up coming, and we all knew it was coming. But anyway, so I'm just standing there waiting. There's like fans walking by, and I see this Suburban drive by, and I just hear, "Hey Vance, let's fucking go!" And Tony Khan is halfway out the window, hair all over the place. "Let's fucking go!" And I was like, that just made my whole night. I didn't know what to do. I just stood there, I'm like, "You're the man, Tony."
Aside from when he's, in an Escalade driving away from you, what's it like working for Tony Khan?
Oh, he is the best. He's literally the best boss ever. I went to a Jags game 2 weeks ago in his suite, and I was talking to his mom, and I told her that too. I was like, "Your son is the best boss I've ever had in any job, anything." Like he's like some people are like, "Oh, does he just fund it?" Like, no, like he is the most hands-on person in that whole company. I mean, he watches everything. So it's like, it's super cool to work for him. And he like truly cares about all the whole roster. Like, it's like, I know people are like, "Oh, like we're a family." Like we are legit a family. It's crazy.
Yeah, you could tell. I mean, the attention to detail and even the Brodie Lee Tribute Show you guys just had in Rochester.
Yeah.
That's what a family would do for a wrestler. Right. It was such a nice event. It was so cool. What was that experience like for you? I mean, so many of these shows, you got signed during the pandemic or right before the pandemic, yes. Right? So these shows, it's like you're wrestling in front of a huge audience for the first time.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I got signed in April 2020. It was like right at the start of the pandemic. I did a dark match with Darby in Jacksonville, and I think the pandemic had just started. And then the next week when it aired, we did all the tapings in Atlanta at the Nightmare Factory, which is where I'm from and where I train and stuff. And that's where I met Brodie, and he walked in and he was asking QT and Cody, like, "What's up with, like, Vance is your guy, right?" And they're like, "Yeah." He's like, "Why isn't he signed anywhere? Like, he seems nice, like he looks good. Like, is there something wrong with him?" And they're like, "No, like he's cool." So Brodie's like, "Well, I want him with me, and like I'll take him under my wing, like on screen and off screen." And I'm like, "This is awesome," because I grew up a huge fan of Brodie, with from WWE and stuff like that. So like I was watching him, through college and stuff. So this is really cool. And then, but it was so weird. Like we got so accustomed to just like performing in front of like the boys, like the crowd was just us. And I think my first match with an actual crowd was, I want to say I know it was Dallas, and I teamed with Pillman and Griff and Allen Angels. And I was like super nervous because there's like, it was so loud. I'm like, "Oh my God." But the only time I've gotten nervous, and now it's just like we did the one in Arthur Ashe Stadium with like 20,000 some people. And that was by far the loudest crowd I've ever been in front of. And I remember looking over at Silver, and I remember just saying, "Dude, this is so fucking cool." And like now it's like, and I'll do like indie shows, and I get more nervous for those actually, because in my mind, it's like, if 500 people are there and half of them are cheering for you, you're kind of like, "Wow, that's not very loud. Like I suck." But like if 20,000 people are there and half are cheering, that's still 10,000 people, chanting your name. So it's like, oh, it's like a drug. It's like you almost feel like you're getting a high from it. It's really cool. And then the Brodie show we just did was obviously super special. My parents came. That was the first time they've ever seen me wrestle, actually. And because they wanted to meet like Amanda and the kids and stuff. And I mean, yeah, just hearing the crowd just so, in his hometown, just so like the Brodie chants. And it was like a whole replay of the first tribute show where like, that's why at times like that, I'm like, I'm glad I wear a mask so no one can see me like tearing up,
Absolutely. But you debuted a new mask too at that show, which I loved.
Yes.
So I thought that was really cool. I thought you also had a very funny tweet about it because people were tweeting you like Deathstroke things, and you were like, not to go heel on you, but I don't know who the fuck Deathstroke is.
So I'm not a big superhero guy. Like I couldn't tell you the difference between Marvel and DC. I know Captain America is Marvel, I believe, right?
He is, yeah.
I think so. Because people are always tagging me in Captain America stuff. That's the only reason I know that. But some fan like drew it and like tagged me in it, and I love fan art. Like I absolutely love it because like I can't draw, like I'm no artistic ability, so like I love it. So half
The new mask
gear
you're
and like the
talking
shirt
about was based off fan art.
He like even my old mask was someone drew. All my t-shirts I do there's fan art. But so then I keep getting Deathstroke tweets, and I'm like, what? I'm like, I don't know who this is, you know. So Stu Grayson had to explain to me what Deathstroke was in catering after the match, and but yeah, it was literally just a fan just drew it, and I was like, oh, that looks really cool. Like I'm gonna get it made, you know.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I'd be remiss not to mention like the relationship that you have with -1. And I was backstage, it had to be early this year. It was like we did a little segment with Jericho and MJF when they did like the match leading up to them versus the Young Bucks. And the way that I saw -1 treated backstage was heartwarming because it really did seem like everyone's taking that kid under their wing, but maybe no one like more so than you. Do you feel like he's like a little brother to you at this point?
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of people think like I've known like that family forever, which I haven't. I actually didn't know them till Brodie was sick, you know. And I was backstage and I saw Amanda and the kids. I knew who they were. I wasn't in gimmick or anything, so like I don't think they knew who I was, you know. So I said hello, whatever. And then when I put on the whole 10 gimmick, Brodie was in front of me, little -1, and he's like, "Mom, that's 10." So then ever since then, he was like really, really like attached to me. And like I've always like Thunder Rose always tells me I have like the gift, because like no matter we do these charity things, like kids are always drawn like to me, you know. And like I was always the youngest brother, so I always wanted a little brother, you know. So I think that's why like I'm never like super serious. So I think in a time when it was like really hard, especially for him, you know, I was like to get him out of the element and just have fun and play video games, you know, and kind of take his mind elsewhere.
And I've heard you talk about him already pitching you ideas for the future, which I love. I can't wait to see you guys 10 years down the road. Tag.
He pitched when we were in Orlando for the dark tapings the other day. He's like, yeah, I think maybe like we win the tag titles, and then like maybe we lose them, and like afterwards we're hugging and we're like, oh, it's all right, and then you just kick me in the face. He's like, that'd be the biggest heel turn ever. I'm like, dude, that's perfect.
I love that. He's already booking your heel turn. You don't have to do anything. You were Tony, you step back, give it to Brodie. Yeah. I saw you talk about in other interviews kind of growing to love the 10 character, not loving it at first, but really understanding like, oh wow, this adds like a different dynamic to me, having the mask and all that. What was it that actually helped you learn to love it?
Yeah, I don't know the exact switching point, but because when I first got presented with, I hated it because I didn't ever wear a mask on indies. And like at that point we were heels, so it was like we were this dark like cult, you know, and like I'm not like a dark like mysterious person. So I'm like, this isn't me at all. But like I'm not gonna say no, you know, obviously. And then the more I got to do it, and like I would watch myself like on TV, I'm like, this is actually really cool because it's like, no, I'm not just like a body, like a normal looking body guy, like all the guys look the same in like 2005, you know. Now it's like I have this mask, and it's like they didn't want me to hide my identity, so it's like, no, still like post up and be yourself, but it's almost like you put the mask on, you're a different person. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool. Like, that makes sense.
Who pitched the mask initially for you? Was it Tony? Was it Brodie?
I think the whole 10 character was Tony.
Wow.
Yeah. And then and Brodie, obviously, because he's part of the Dark Order, so we kind of had to wear a mask, but I think the whole 10 character was Tony.
Do you have like inspirations for the 10 character now, like that, even if it's outside of wrestling? Like, do you see something and you're like, ooh, I would like to incorporate that into 10?
Yeah, and honestly, it's like as far as the look goes, it's all like all the stuff I wear is literally like pictures that fans have like drew of me.
It's such like a cool like little detail to the character that I feel like more people should know.
And that's like it's cool because like I'm thinking like when I was a kid, if I drew something and sent it to like my favorite wrestler and I saw him wear it on TV, I'd be like, this is the coolest thing. So like that's another aspect to like connect with the crowd, you know, and not even in like a physical way, but like more of like it's like super sentimental, you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have one of my tattoos is like a listener drew it for me. I reached out and was like, I think it would be cool if I just had a tattoo done by a listener. So can anyone do this? And I found an artist that was incredibly talented. And I like the same like dynamic of like that connection. It's very cool.
Right.
As far as the mask goes, do you see yourself dropping it in the future and wrestling like you did on the indies?
Honestly, I don't know. So I'm the type of person where like, we have such a cool job and it's like we can be creative and stuff, but at the end of the day, it is still a job. So I'm just going to show up and do what they want me to do. If they want me to wear the mask forever, I'll wear the mask forever. If they want me to drop it next week and be something totally different, I'll drop it next week, you know? Because like at the end of the day, like it is a job. So
yeah,
I don't like right now though. I really do like the 10 character.
Oh yeah, I like it as well. I think you should stick with it. Who were your favorites growing up? Who were the ones that like got you into wrestling to be like, ooh, I think I want to do this?
So I have like one definitive match where when I watched it, I was like, I want to do this, and it was Hogan and Rock at Mania 18.
Wow,
and
classic.
It was before they even locked up, when they just that stare down and the Toronto Sky Dome's going crazy. I was like, they're not even doing anything, and like people love it, you know, because I'm not someone who's big on like, oh, what a cool move. I like the moments like that, like the literally like icon versus icon moments. So that was the definitive one. I think like the inspirations for like how I kind of work is like more Cena Batista type. And like
I like you giving Cena his cred, you know. Some people are still down on Cena. I think it's crazy.
Yeah. So I'm a huge Cena fan and I always have been. And it's not even so much about like what he does in the ring, it's all the cool stuff he does outside of the ring. Like I think he has like the most Make-A-Wishes. Like I think he just passed Mickey Mouse or something, which is insane.
Yeah, he has the most, yeah.
And like that's like people can like bash him, but like he got where he got because like he works super hard. You know what I mean? And it's not even from wrestling. Like when I started training, I remember one of my trainers told me, he's like, the stuff you do inside the ring is about 5% of the business. And like now I understand it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. What was your experience like training in New Jersey?
So I like when I was there, I loved it because there was like a good crop of guys. When I came in, QT was there, Damian Priest was there, Matt Riddle was there, Nick Camarado was there. So I was like,
wow, yeah, really good crop of guys. Yeah.
So they all helped me kind of break in, you know, because they have all been wrestling for a couple of years at that point. I think Riddle was like 2 years in. Damian Priest was like at least 10, and QT was like 10, and so like they all helped me get into it. So I had a really good group of guys to help train me. And then Danny Cage owns it. Blue Meanie was one of the trainers at that point. Yeah, I had a really good group there. I hated living in New Jersey though. I hated it, man.
Where did you live?
I lived like by Philly, like South Jersey, and I hated it.
Okay, South Jersey, the pork roll side, not the Taylor ham up north.
Exactly. Yes. I hated it there. I'm from Michigan, so like going from like a really small town in the Midwest to like the Northeast was a pretty big like shock, just how people act and everything. And now I live in Atlanta and I love Georgia. I told my mom I think I'll be here for good. The weather's nice, you know, the people are super nice. But yeah, I'll never move back to New Jersey. Ever.
I live in New Jersey. I don't know if you knew that. It's funny that you're saying that. But my sister-in-law is from Michigan, and my brother now moved to Michigan, so we have that Michigan Jersey connection between us. Yeah.
You know where at in Michigan?
Michigan. I don't know if you know where that is.
Yeah, I know where that is. Yep.
Who have your favorite opponents in AEW been? The favorite matches that you've had actually in the company?
Darby, the TNT match was probably my favorite. The TNT title match.
That match with Darby, and even your introduction match with Darby on Dark, like you referred to earlier, was great.
Darby's so good. Like he is so fun to work. He's very willing to do anything. And he's so easy to just beat up, you know? And like I love wrestling guys who are considerably smaller than me, because it's like you can just do whatever. And he's
so good. Is that your favorite style, like working someone that's smaller?
Yeah, 100%. But he's so good. Obviously the Brodie Tribute Show, like the very first one, is probably like gonna be my all-time like favorite moment. Yeah, because it was like super real, you know. Like I'll watch that. I'll still watch that like probably once a week, like just like the ending of it. So I just remember when I pinned Ricky and I started crying, and I was teaming with Cody, and you know, like me and Cody like are like real life like really good friends, you know. And I just remember Cody hugged me and he was like, Brodie would be proud of you. And I was like, man, this is like a moment, you know.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. Do you have people in AEW that you haven't worked yet that you're like, oh my God, I can't believe we haven't gotten in the ring yet?
I really want to work Miro.
Oh, wow. I would love to see that.
Yeah. And when he was the TNT champion, everyone would always tweet me like, we want to see Miro versus 10. And I was like, I want it so bad. And I see people tweeting
you now about Sammy.
Yeah. I also want to wrestle Sean Spears.
Well, I was going to ask about Sean Spears. We actually got a listener question from my friend Will Washington, and he said the 10 chant used to famously belong to Sean Spears while he was working the Ty Dillinger character in NXT. Now crowds are doing it for you. Have you guys had any conversations about that?
Yeah. So this was like when I first got into AEW, because Spears and Brodie were really good friends, like very tight. And so they were talking. I think Brodie made a joke like, "This kid's gonna steal your gimmick," and Sean's like, "Do whatever you want with it, man. Like, I don't care." And then at Arthur Ashe a couple weeks ago, and the whole crowd was chanting 10. I went to the back and said, "Dude, I stole your gimmick." He said, "You better hope they don't make me face again, because I'm stealing that back."
All right, like, now I need to see that match. Yeah. For the
I
10
want to work him, because I know, like, before we even lock up, the whole crowd is going to start chanting 10. So that's all I want. I want to work.
You want that moment
for that one moment.
Have you thought about the eventual disbanding or breakup of the Dark Order? Because there are factions like the New Day where anytime they're asked about, like, "Hey, are you guys ever going to break up?" They're like, no, we're very not interested in that at all. Some people were like, "Yeah, I think we'll get to that." Have you thought about it?
I have, because I feel like, like, nothing lasts forever. So it's kind of like maybe inevitable that it'll happen, but I don't want it to happen, because, like, I'm really good friends with everybody in the group. Like, it's not like, oh, we're just on TV friends. Like, I mean, like, you get me, Silver, and Reynolds together, and we're saying the most, like, obscene shit all day. We just crack each other up. So, like,
maybe you guys need a podcast. That sounds like a podcast trio.
Oh, that'd be great. That would be great.
You guys should do it. We got a couple more listener questions, and then I could get you out of here. Mike Holzer wrote in and said, "What was the initial internal conversation amongst the Dark Order like after Brodie's death? Was that a very confusing time for you guys?"
Yeah, because we were like, when he passed away, we were all heels. And we did the tribute show, and obviously, like, organically became baby faces. But now we're like, where do we go from here? Like we don't have not only a leader on screen, but, like, we don't have a leader backstage now. So, like, we don't have someone to really, like, hey, I have this idea for the group. Like, we don't have that hierarchy now. So it's like, now we're all, level playing field. So, like, most of these groups, they have, like, that one, like, for example, Inner Circle, they got Jericho. So it's like, they all have, like, this one guy who can really, like, hey, let's do this for the group. Now we don't have that. And so, yeah, we were all like, what are we going to do from here?
At what point did you feel like you kind of figured it out? Because now it feels like the Dark Order is, one of the most overacts in AEW. It's so,
I think they kind of just let us, like, now that we're faces, it's like, just go out there and be yourself. And I think it's like, now that's easy, So like, we would do all the stuff on BTE, and like, obviously all that stuff it's an act on BTE, but it's like, it's kind of like ourselves turned up to, like, 20,
Yeah.
Because, like, I don't actually do cocaine, but, like, I like to go out and party and stuff. So it's kind of like ourselves, but just turned up to 10. So it's like, like, we were getting over on BT. So they're kind of like, just go out there and be goofballs, basically, be yourself. And then that's when the fans really started getting behind us. So, I mean, I think we have it figured out now. There's times where I'm like, I'll be texting the guys and I'm like, what are we doing this week? Like, where do we go from here? You know what I mean?
You talked about liking a party. If you were putting together like a party foursome, who are you picking?
Cody for sure. Ricky Starks. I'm trying to think of one more. I mean, so us three, we go to Disney and stuff together, and we have fun. I don't know who the fourth one would be. Wardlow is like one of my really good friends too, but he sometimes is like, well, like, hey, let's go do this after the show or whatever, and he's like, okay, and then he's asleep in his room. So I'm like,
oh yeah,
he's like the king of.
That'd be me, to be honest. Yeah, I'm kind of the Irish exit, the Irish goodbye person, whatever. Yeah. We've got one more fan question from Devalaria. He said, if you could recruit any wrestler to join, not lead, he said no one will ever touch Brodie, but join from any era of professional wrestling, the Dark Order, who would it be?
Wow. That's hard. Any era. I would probably go with I don't know, honestly. That's really hard. I think if I did want an AEW, I would pick Wardlow.
I mean, him and MJF, they got a little friction. Who knows?
Me and Wardlow want to do a tag team one day. We're like the mega powers.
Ooh,
that's what we always talk about. Yeah. So I'd say Wardlow.
All right, I'll take that answer. I like that answer. All right, Preston Vance. I'm excited for Dynamite tonight. Thank you very much for joining the show. Tell everyone where they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter, both Preston Vance, PRES10 VANCE.
All right. Thanks for joining the show.
Thank you, Robbie.